Hi everyone, this is Shayna O'Connor from TrueBloodFansource.com, and I'm here to discuss episode 510, only 2 episodes left, of season 5 called Gone, Gone, Gone. But before I do, I just wanted to say that I managed to raise a little bit of money for Kristen Bauer's Kickstarter out for Africa. I raised about $250. So thank you to anyone if you watch this little video blog. Thank you for bidding and buying and all of that. I truly appreciate it. And I will be adding the money to her Kickstarter soon. So, on to the episode. I was a little bit confused by this episode. It might be because I was a little bit discombobulated. I missed the East Coast showing because of some unforeseen circumstances, and I had to watch it at 9 so I could live tweet, so it wasn't in my usual routine. But I felt a little bit discombobulated with some of the authority stuff, and especially the opening part with Mike Spencer biting Sookie, becoming a vampire. I thought at first it was a dream, but, when you finally see Sookie at the house and then you realize that, they're cleaning up vampire goo, it makes it sort of real, or, very real. I didn't really know what to make of that scene, but I really did enjoy how Anna Paquin punctuated the end of that scene with the fuck, because it just, at times, even though the show can get so ridiculous, the writers, I think, aren't afraid to laugh at that kind of craziness, and I appreciate that, as an audience member. So that was fun. But continuing on with Sookie, I don't know how I feel about the whole Warlow thing and Sookie being the one that Warlow can have because her great-great-great-grandfather said that he'd give Warlow his first fae-bearing female. I'm not sure how to feel about that, but I do like that they're integrating the fairies a little bit more, and it's a little bit more realistic as opposed to the way that we saw them in season 3 and season 4, with the white floaty sort of thing, and then all of a sudden they were all evil. It was a little bit more it's that aspect of it is a little bit more towards what I've come to see Charlaine Harris's fairy world described as in her books. So I appreciate that. But I still like Sookie and Jason. I'm glad that they had this storyline together, even though I don't know how I feel about it, because they haven't gotten a chance to really work together prior to this season, since she got involved with Belle and Eric. So it's really nice to see them, and I thought it was great that she supported Jason, when he went to go see Hoyt after Hoyt had been glamored, which was so, so, so sad. I thought that was a beautiful scene, but it was so painful to watch. I mean, it was painful to watch Jason, Jessica, and Hoyt in Merlotte's during that scene. I actually didn't think that that Hoyt would leave. Even after he drove away, I was like, oh yeah, they're not gonna, kick Hoyt off the show. And then right after, I was looking at my Twitter, and there was an article about TV Guide, and then it said he was leaving, and something about a cake, they brought out a cake for him. I was like, oh, he really is leaving. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it makes sense, in the after. I was like, oh, okay, I totally see it. There's not really too much for Hoyt to do now at this point with the cast that's assembled. But I was still sad because I like Hoyt, and I like Maxine. I hope that we'll see Maxine more. Last night, Dale Raoul replied to one of my tweets from the live tweet on Sunday, and I was talking to her a little bit, and so I said, I guess, Maxine will have to stay in Bontemps and represent the colorful human population of True Blood. And she seemed to like it because I think she retweeted it. But I hope we'll see more of Hoyt's mom, because she was great in that one scene in the car where she's like, yeah, I bought you a mattress and this, that, and the other thing. And she's all ready to mama Hoyt, and Hoyt doesn't want mama anymore. So I felt bad for her, but at the same time I was like, good. Hoyt's finally standing up for himself. But really, did he have to go? But I guess he did. On the authority side, I have mixed feelings with what they're doing with Bill, because a lot of fans are feeling like, oh, this is all part of Bill's plan. But from what Stephen Moyer was saying in his HBO Go commentary in this episode, I don't think Bill's pretending. I think he actually believes it. I think that Eric still doesn't believe totally, but I think seeing Godric destroyed even as a hallucination kind of made him think, at the very least, that he has to toe the line for the moment. But yeah, seeing Godric, I was really relieved to see Godric, and then when Lilith killed Godric in the hallucination, I was like, what the fuck? Oh my god! What is wrong with them? Those writers killing Godric again. But yeah. I'm really glad that Lucy Griffith's character Nora got a kind of a dose from Godric before he was killed, because she kind of deserved it. I didn't like the way that she was talking about Godric, and it just, I'm glad they had the conversation. But I think that the tide is turning a little bit in the authority. I don't know if after seeing Lilith rip Godric's head off, if Nora quite believes with the same kind of fervor that she did about Lilith anymore. But I think that I just have the sneaking suspicion, like the way that Eric was talking to Russell after he came out later on in the episode, like towards the end, and was kissing his ring and saying, I forgive you. The way that he was looking at Russell, I was kind of like thinking to myself, are they kind of communicating in sort of this, like, not language, but like unspoken way? Maybe he's teamed up with Russell because, Russell, he doesn't subscribe to anything, I don't think, really, unless it suits his purposes. So, to see Eric have to toe the line, especially after Molly gets killed, and I was sad. Poor Molly. Rest in peace, Molly. After Molly died, these guys are getting really intense with the whole authority thing. And Lilith and taking over the world. But I was really glad, speaking of Russell, I really got one to see him dance with Steve to Teenage Dream, no less. That made me giggle to no end, just because I thought it was like classic True Blood. But also, I was glad to see Russell finally give up the act and get really mad and start pushing Salome, and he bitch slapped Salome, or shoved her against the pillar, and I was like, good for him, damn it. Russell's a villain, but I'm glad that someone finally showed Salome that, like, she's not the be all and end all just because she's the guardian. She's not the most powerful vampire there is anymore. So I was really glad about that. I don't know how I feel about Jessica being there in the authority, but I'm glad that it looks like she has a healthy dose of skepticism, especially since she came from a family where religion was really highly emphasized. I think that she, of all people, will be someone who will eventually probably say, Bill, like, what the hell? Like, come on. You don't really believe this, and you're acting this way, but that's not really you. So I'm looking forward to it because Jessica really looked scared when Salome got shoved. And Russell ran out screaming about the fairy blood. And, you know, I kind of feel bad for Steve in a way, because here he is, he's the new vampire of the group, and like he's being shoved out in front of the cameras and saying that, oh, you know, vampires are fine, totally denying that the authority exists, totally denying the bombings and everything. But really, he's a new vampire, and I think it's really, you know, the authority has no place having him out there, because, I mean, it doesn't, you know, he's just following what he thinks is cool, and it's not really cool. I mean, you look at what happened with Elijah and Pam and Tara, who, by the way, I'm really proud of. I mean, to make Pam scared of someone, they have to be really powerful, and I was mad that Elijah pushed Pam, and, you know, that he was forcing them to try to procreate and all this stuff. But I'm glad Pam kind of stood up and said, no, we're not going to do it. You know, I'm not pleased that she said, oh, we're going to run away. But she said, oh, no, you know what? You're not making it. No, this isn't the way that we do it. And I loved her line, we're not going to procreate just because some jerk dipped in afterbirth told us to. I thought that was a great line. But I'm really proud of Tara, even though it wasn't the most thought out decision. I'm really glad that she decided to stand up and say no, concocted the whole thing and chopped Elijah's head off, because somebody needed to stand up and say, I don't think so. And it'll be a great way to pull them into the authority if they end up there, because at least, you know, Pam and Eric will be together again, and they can kind of fight. Because I think that, you know, Eric needs, you know, the people he loves, and he's been trying to save Nora, but he feels like it's a losing battle. And I think that, like I said, I don't think he believes truly, but I think that he's realized that he's just in this position where he's outnumbered and he doesn't have enough support. So he's just gotta toe the line, because if he doesn't, he'll risk losing his sister, he'll risk losing everything, and he can't, because it's not just about him, it's now about Bill, it's now about Nora, it's now about Jessica. So those, you know, things come into play. Also, it looks like basically the whole entire cast is going to end up at the authority, by the way, because now Luna and Sam are now at the authority because they're looking for Emma. And by the way, I feel bad for Emma. The poor kid. I mean, you know, she's not really a dog, she's a shapeshifter. Like, she's a werewolf. So, like, you can't just, like, scold her for turning back into a human. I mean, that's natural. Steve. Meanie. I feel bad, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope Luna doesn't die, because I remember watching True-Blood.net, they're the original fan site for True Blood, and they do a great job with their video podcast every week. I think, was it Mel No, Liz said that she thought Luna was going to die. I was like, no, because I like Luna for Sam, and I think that, you know, Janina Gavankar is great. So I hope she doesn't die. But now they're starting the thing that they've been doing, I think, at least for the last year. I saw this last season, too, where around this time, they started killing off or sending off cast members to thin out the herd, so to speak. I hope Luna's not one of them. And I hope Nora, I like Nora, so I hope she's not one either. But I think I've covered everything. So I covered Jason, Hoyt, and Jessica, and how sad and heartbreaking that was to watch Hoyt be glamored by Jessica. That was just painful. It wasn't quite as painful for me as Eric and Pam, because they're my favorite couple. They've managed to worm their way into my heart. And then I've always cared about Hoyt and Jessica, and that was painful, but it wasn't. It was sad though. They did a great job, and I thought that the acting was superb. And I'm glad that they didn't kill off Jim Perrick and they left him a way to come back as Hoyt in the future if they so chose. Because I think that's smart. Anytime you can, as a show, I think you should always give your actors a way to come back, so you always have options that way. Covered Pam and Tara, and Sookie and Jason, Eric and the Authority, and Bill and Jessica, and that's everything. At least I think I want to talk about. But oh yeah, and Russell's epic thing at the end where he drops into his normal German accent. I just have to say, Dennis O'Hare is just great. I'm glad that they brought him back. I wasn't sure, really what his purpose was, but now I really do see it. His character's return. I'm really glad that they had him come back, because I think that he provides that extra villain quality, because Salome can't carry that all on her own. So I think it'll be an interesting fight to see what happens next episode, especially because Jason ends up in a hole with dirt with Jessica. So dun dun dun. And Sookie just discovered that she's the first Fae-bearing female of the Stackhouse family since 1702. Dun dun dun. It's gonna be tight, but I'm looking forward to see the way that this wraps up for this season. So for right now, I'm gonna say goodbye, and before I go, make sure, if you haven't donated already, go donate to Kristen Bauer's Kickstarter. It ends on Saturday night if you're on the West Coast, and early Sunday morning if you're on the East Coast. I mean, it really is worth it. She has great swag for everybody, and it's really a worthwhile cause. So I encourage you all to go donate. I really want to see her get to 60,000. So yeah, go donate, and I will see you next week.